You were listening to A Scary State. And this week, we're talking about me. Well, not really, but it's my birthday episode because it's my birthday.
As we prepared you guys last week, Kenzie is hungover.
I'm so dead.
But you had a good time last night.
I had the best time. I felt so loved.
Good.
And it was so much fun.
And karaoke. We went up, we sang.
We did.
We did our thing. Cheap Trick.
It was great.
Chris asked me, he was like, oh, what song did you guys pick? And I told him, and I was like, it's because it's our friend's song. He goes, well, that's precious. I was like, I know.
I don't even think there's like a deep story with it. I think I just was excited you also knew the song.
But I think that was like our one main song that like bonded us from the beginning.
Probably.
Aww. All right. Well, we don't have an introduction at all.
Yep.
So do we just want to jump right on in?
Let's jump in. What are we talking about today, Lauren?
We are talking about JonBenét Ramsey.
Woo-hoo.
So this was supposed to be recorded in October, but then like we said, we had all of that stuff going on in October, so you get it now.
Yes.
And we are laying in bed, and this is just really a great way to be recording.
I really think we need to do it more often.
This will be like our treat way to record.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so I'm going to start off with a phone call.
Okay.
So it'll go back and forth between 911 and the
Mhm.
person answering.
Okay.
911 emergency. Police, what's going on? 755 15th Street. What is going on there, ma'am? We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please. Explain to me what is going on, okay? There's a note left and our daughter is gone. A note was left and your daughter is gone. Yes. How old is your daughter? She is 6 years old. She is blonde, 6 years old. How long ago was this? I don't know. I just found a note. My daughter's missing. Does it say who took her? What? Does it say who took her? No, I don't know. There's a ransom note here. It's a ransom note? It says SBTC Victory, please. Okay, what's your name? Are you Patsy Ramsey? I'm the mother. Oh my God, please. I'm sending a police officer over, okay? Please. Do you know how long she's been gone? No, I don't. Please. We just got up and she's not here. Oh my God, please. Okay. Please send somebody. I am, honey. Please. Take a deep breath for me, okay? Hurry. Patsy. This is the call that 911 operators received on December 26, 1996 from Patsy Ramsey after she woke up on the morning after Christmas, found a ransom note in her home, and could not find her 6-year-old daughter, JonBenét. So who is JonBenét? JonBenét Patricia Ramsey was born on August 6, 1990 in Atlanta, Georgia to parents Patricia, Patsy, and JonBenét Ramsey. Her first name was a combination of her father's first and middle names, and her middle name was her mother's first name.
Okay.
John Ramsey was the president of Access Graphics, a computer software company which later became a subsidiary of Lockheed Martin.
My mom used to work for them.
Lockheed Martin?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Doing what?
I have no idea. Could not tell you.
John had been married once and had 3 children before, but that marriage ended in divorce in 1978. JonBenét had an older brother named Burke. He was 3 years older than JonBenét. She was enrolled in kindergarten at High Peaks Elementary School in Boulder, Colorado, where her family moved from Atlanta after her birth in 1991. This is where her father's company was headquartered. Growing up, JonBenét was entered into many child beauty pageants by her mother while in Boulder. She won many titles to include America's Royal Miss, Little Miss Charlevoix, Little Miss Colorado, Colorado State All-Star Kids Cover Girl, and National Tiny Miss Beauty.
Oh my goodness.
A lot.
Yeah.
And she's 6. Her mother had been in the beauty pageant life growing up and wanted JonBenét to follow in her footsteps. She also claimed it was a way for her and her daughter to really bond over something. So this is literally the only part of the story that we will have chronological order, because overall it doesn't make sense to tell the story that way.
Okay.
So we'll kind of get into it starting at the beginning and then we'll branch off as we do.
Okay.
So December 23rd, 1996. 3 days before Patsy's 911 call about JonBenét being missing, another call had been made to 911 from the house. Later, it was determined that the call had most likely been made by a drunk party guest, as the Ramseys were known to host parties. December 25th, 1996 is Christmas, so the family attended a Christmas party at their friend Fleet White's house. JonBenét had been excited that day as she had received a bike for Christmas.
Nice.
After the party, the family came back home, got ready for bed, and JonBenét went to her room to go to bed. December 26, 1993. So this is the morning on December 26th that Patsy woke up in her bed, still wearing her clothes from the Christmas party the night before, and heads downstairs to make some coffee. As she is taking the back stairs leading down to the kitchen, she finds a 2.5-page handwritten ransom note.
2.5 pages.
2.5 pages.
Handwritten.
Like, That takes a long-ass time.
Yes, it does.
So the note read, quote, Mr. Ramsey, listen carefully. We are a group of individuals that represent a small foreign factor. We do respect your business, but not the country that it serves. At this time, we have your daughter in our possession. She is safe and unharmed, and if you want her to see 1997, you must follow our instructions to the letter. You will withdraw $118,000 from your account.
118?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
$100,000 will be in $100 bills, and the remaining $18,000 in $20 bills.
That's weird.
I know. Make sure that you bring an adequate size attaché. I think it's like a attaché to the bank. When you get home, you will put the money in a brown paper bag. I will call you between 8 and 10 a.m. tomorrow to instruct you on delivery. The delivery will be exhausting, so I advise you be rested.
What?
If we monitor you getting the money early, we might call you early to arrange an earlier delivery for the money and hence an earlier delivery pickup for your daughter. Any deviation of my instructions will result in the immediate execution of your daughter. You will also be denied her remains for proper burial. The two gentlemen watching over your daughter do not particularly like you, so I advise you not provoke them. Speaking to anyone about your situation, such as police, FBI, etc., will result in your daughter being beheaded. If we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies.
Oh my God.
If you alert bank authorities, she dies. If the money is in any way marked or tampered with, she dies. You will be scanned for electric devices, and if any are found, she dies. You can try to deceive us, but be warned, we are familiar with law enforcement countermeasures and tactics. You stand a 99% chance of killing your daughter if you try to outsmart us. Follow our instructions, and you stand a 100% chance of getting her back. You and your family are under constant scrutiny, as well as the authorities. Don't try to grow a brain, John. You are not the only fat cat around, so don't think that killing will be difficult. Don't underestimate us, John. Use that good Southern common sense of yours. It is up to you now, John. Victory. SBTC.
All
right, tell me your thoughts.
Weird. That's so weird. That's like something out of a movie.
Right. And some interesting things to point out. So obviously you didn't read it. Right. I was reading it. First off, business, possessions, attach, and outsmart are all spelled incorrectly.
Okay.
Second, the note demands $118,000.
Right,
which
that
is
was weird.
Just random. The significance of this amount is that it is nearly identical to the amount of money that John received for his Christmas bonus that year.
Okay.
Leading them to theorize that the person responsible would have to be close to the family or the company to know that amount and want to request that amount.
Yes.
But others theorized that maybe that amount was a reference to Psalms 118, which says, quote, "Oh, give thanks unto the Lord, for he is good, because his mercy endureth forever."
Well, that's a leap.
Oh, it absolutely
That's a giant
is a leap.
Fucking leap.
Huge leap. And I think Psalms is like the only book in the Bible that has like 118 like parts of it.
Huh.
I'm probably totally wrong, but that's just what I think of first.
I certainly don't know.
And then third, this letter is long. So when
it is.
Spoiler alert, they alert the FBI.
Well, right. I was just thinking that. I was like, she called the police immediately.
Right. Like immediately.
Like, that's weird.
So when the FBI later became involved, they told police that it is unusual for such a note to be written at the crime scene. The longer the note, written at the crime scene no less, means the chances of getting caught are higher. And actually,
why would they write the note at the crime scene?
We will get into it. Okay. So this is actually the longest.
And they know it was written there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yep. And actually,
that is really weird.
This note is the longest handwritten ransom note in known history.
Yeah, it's just everything about it is weird.
I know. And fourth, along with this note, a practice note had been found from the impression of the paper. So they found the paper that it was written on, and they could see that there had been a practice note on there.
Yeah, who just sits in the house and writes a 2.5-page paper?
But first, practice it. Like, what kidnappers would practice their ransom note?
That's so weird.
And then fifth, there also is an unusual amount of exclamation points being used.
It's like
it's like a millennial.
Yes.
I'm going to add an exclamation point so you know that I'm not mad.
Yeah. Yes.
And the use of the initials at the bottom is odd. It's just signed SBTC. We never figure out what that means.
They probably just made up the letters.
So police started to believe that the ransom note had to be staged. The only fingerprints found on it were Patsy's from picking it up and the police who also handled it. So no other, like, fingerprints were found on it, which police thought was kind of odd.
Well, I mean, if they wore gloves.
Right. So though the note said not to, Patsy phoned the police at 5:52 a.m. She then called friends and family while she awaited the police's arrival, who only showed up 3 minutes later. So the police did get there pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
2 officers responded. One of them was police officer Rick French.
Okay.
And before 6 a.m., he and another officer conducted a cursory search of the house. They were
Okay.
able to say that there had been no signs of forced entry. So the only people known to be in the house that night were JonBenét's immediate family. So her mom, Patsy, her dad, John, and her brother, Burke.
Right. And
All-
her brother's 12?
He's 3 years older than her, so he would
No,
have been 9.
12. Jesus.
Just pulling a random number out of your ass. That's fine.
I pulled something.
So Officer French made his way down to the basement to search down there. As he was walking around, he noticed a small door that was secured by an additional wooden latch at the top of the door frame.
Wait.
So there's a door.
That goes down to the basement?
It's in the basement.
Oh, it's in the
So it's just
basement.
one of the doors in the basement, but there's a wooden latch kind of closing the door.
Okay.
So he paused for a second, thinking if maybe he should look inside, but he ultimately decided against it and continued doing his sweep of
Why?
the basement. So he was trying to find a place that a kidnapper could have escaped. So they have the kidnapper theory. They think someone came in, kidnapped JonBenet, and left.
He wouldn't have.
So what he's trying to do is find the escape route. So he knows that if there's this door that latches on the outside, the guy, like the kidnapper, could not have gone out that way. Like there's
Right.
no exit that way because he
Right.
couldn't have latched it on his own.
Yeah.
So French ruled it out as a possible exit route. At the same time, a forensics team was called in. Because they were sure JonBenet had been kidnapped from her room was cordoned off as not to contaminate any evidence, but only her room. So no precautions like this were taken in the rest of the house.
That's weird.
Yes. And to make matters worse, friends, victim advocates, and the family ministers showed up to the house to provide support for the family.
Jesus.
So this wouldn't be bad if it weren't for the fact that the visitors started picking up and cleaning the surfaces in the kitchen.
What?
So essentially destroying any possible evidence there could have been.
And they just blocked off her room?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
And I don't think the friends cleaning was like a deliberate, let me like
Yeah.
damage
No,
everything.
for sure not.
But it's like friends coming in, like when you're going through a rough time, people are going to come in and do
Right.
things for you.
right.
So I kind of think that's what it was. But
Yeah, that-
essentially,
but
it
that's
destroyed
still-
any evidence that could have been in the kitchen.
correct.
Especially if the ransom note was found in the kitchen.
Correct.
Linda Arndt, a Boulder detective, arrived at the house at 8 a.m. The family knew their time was running out, so the Ramsey family got together their ransom money, and they, along with Art, waited around for a call from the kidnappers about what to do with the money, just like the ransom letter said. They waited and waited.
Never came.
10 a.m. rolled around and went, but they never received a call from the kidnappers for what to do with the ransom money. Detective Arndt said it was odd how the 10 a.m. deadline passed without John or Patsy saying a word. Like, no one reacted to the time changing to 10. No one had been sitting by the phone waiting, and no one asked any questions or raised any alarms or concerns when no calls came through from the kidnappers.
Huh?
All details
Species.
that the detective also found highly suspicious, odd, and off-putting given the situation. Like, I know for a fact, if I had a child
Mhm.
who I believe has been kidnapped, and they
Mhm.
said, I'm going to call you at 10, I am staring at that clock and sitting next to that phone for 10
Yeah, like the
o'clock.
moment it hits 10:01.
And I don't get a call, I'm freaking out.
Correct.
Well, I'd already be freaking out, but still.
Yes, that's odd behavior.
So after waiting around for a while, at 1 p.m., so we're 3 hours after that first call should have come through, Detective Arndt asked John Ramsey and Fleet White, a family friend, to go around the house. Everyone was just sitting around anxiously, so Arndt told the men to look around and see if anything, quote, seemed amiss. I think just kind of trying to get them out of the room and just like walk around. So the two men headed down to the basement first to search from the bottom to the top. John made his way to the latch door that Officer French had overlooked. He opened it and made his way inside. That is where John made the horrible discovery. Inside one of the rooms was JonBenet, and she was no longer alive. Her mouth was covered with duct tape. A nylon cord was found around her wrists and neck, and her torso had been covered by a white blanket. The rope around her neck had been fashioned into a garrote using a paintbrush.
What?
Absolutely horrified and probably in a state of shock, John immediately grabbed JonBenet's body and carried her upstairs, screaming, where he laid her on the carpet in the main hallway.
Oh, no.
He even covered her up with a throw blanket. When her body was moved,
oh my God.
it further contaminated the crime scene, and what could have been critical forensic evidence was disturbed. He later said, quote, she was lying on a white blanket. The blanket was wrapped around her. Her hands were tied above her head. She had tape over her mouth. I immediately knelt down over her, felt her cheek, took the tape off, immediately off her mouth. I tried to untie the cord that was around her arms, but I couldn't get the knot untied. And honestly, I can see why he would
like
have
that's
done this.
right. Like that's not exactly crazy.
I don't think this is crazy at all.
But
like,
I mean,
if you
it's
see your
still
daughter in this position,
correct.
Your like logical
yes.
sense is not there anymore.
Yes, and so like it's not suspicious like what he did. It just is bad.
Yeah. At 10:45 p.m., the Boulder County Coroner's team removed JonBenét Ramsey's body from the house. So December 28th, 1996, the Ramseys go to the Boulder police station where they willingly provided handwriting, blood, and hair samples to the police. John and Patsy participated in a preliminary interview that went on for over 2 hours. Burke even participated in many interviews within the first couple of weeks. Patsy was John's second wife, like I said. He had 3 children before JonBenét and Burke. Their names were John Andrew, Melinda, and Elizabeth. John Andrew and Melinda were immediately cleared from the investigation as they were out of town when the murder occurred. Sadly, they didn't need to look into Elizabeth as she had died in a tragic car accident in 1992.
Oh.
So on December 29th, just 3 days after the murder, the Ramseys leave Colorado and head back to their former hometown of Atlanta.
What? Wait. What?
Yeah.
Wait, say that again?
3 days after the murder,
Yeah.
the Ramseys leave Colorado.
What?
And head back to their former hometown of Atlanta.
What?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now that's crazy.
Yep.
That's so weird.
Right.
That's so weird.
Yep. Yeah. That's, yeah. On December 31st, 1996, the funeral for JonBenét is held and she is laid to rest in Marietta, Georgia, next to her older half-sister Elizabeth. Over 200 family members and friends attended the funeral.
Did they move back home or did they just go to Atlanta to have the funeral?
I think it was like a let's get out of Colorado for now because a lot's going on there. We need to go back to where our friends and family are in Atlanta.
Okay, that's not too weird. I mean, it's weird, but it's not like...
It is, but I also feel like at the same time, you shouldn't be allowed to leave the state.
Right. That's what I was thinking
Especially
too.
Colorado to Atlanta. That's not like Virginia to Maryland.
Correct.
That's like a flight.
Yeah.
So on January 1st and January 2nd of 1997, the Ramseys gave an interview to CNN on the 1st. But when 5 detectives flew to Atlanta to talk to the family on the 2nd, they were suddenly too emotional to talk to police. So they can interview for CNN, but they can't talk to police. On January 3rd, detectives revealed something interesting. The Ramsey note that Patsy found, it was revealed to have been written inside of the house, like we mentioned.
Right.
Using a notepad and pen that were already in the house, meaning that the letter was written after the murder.
Which is also why would they bother to do that if she was already dead?
Right. Maybe just to get the money.
But still,
But then they still didn't call.
Right.
You know?
They didn't call. And I'm it clearly is trying to look like something it's not.
Yeah. They also revealed that through forensics, the letter had been written by someone American-born due to the connotations and the lingo used.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
I know, it's really cool. They also noted that the author of the note was female. I don't know how, but somehow that was determined.
Okay.
On March 7th, a handwriting analysis was able to eliminate John as being the one who wrote the note, but not Patsy. There was still a chance at this point that Patsy may have written it. Then on this Saturday, April 19th, 1997, John and Patsy Ramsey become the prime suspects in their daughter's murder. About 2 weeks later, Patsy was extensively interviewed where new statements seemed to replace the initial one she provided right after the murder. So her story's starting to change. July 14th, the previous sealed autopsy results were released. So it gets a little intense here, so trigger warning. But I mean, if you've heard anything about this case, you kind of know what you're in for. So of course...
I haven't. I don't know what I'm in for.
So you have a trigger warning, but there's nothing you can do about it, so...
I know.
So of course, an autopsy was performed on JonBenét. It was revealed that she had been killed by strangulation and a skull fracture, with the official cause of death being ruled as, quote, asphyxia by strangulation associated with craniocerebral trauma.
So she hit her head.
Had her head hit.
Had her head hit.
And was strangled. So the garrote had been made from a length of
Do we know which one came
I don't think
first?
so. I don't think so. I think it's just kind of a thing where they're putting them all together.
Okay.
So the garrote had been made from a length of nylon cord and the broken handle of a paintbrush. Oddly enough, though, the bottom part of the paintbrush has never been found, though the house was thoroughly searched. There was no evidence of conventional rape like semen, but they could not rule out sexual assault as there had been a vaginal injury. So evidence suggested that the paintbrush used in the garrote may have been used for sexual assault. The pathologist at the autopsy also recorded that it appeared as if her vaginal area had been wiped with a cloth. There were also small amounts of dried blood, bruising, and abrasions found in this area. She had bruises and abrasions on her shoulders, legs, and feet. Ultimately, and rightfully so, her death was ruled a homicide. More was found during the autopsy. It revealed, quote, a vegetable or fruit material which may present pineapple had been eaten just a few hours before her death. When investigators had taken pictures of the house when they first arrived, there was a bowl of pineapple on the kitchen table that had a spoon in it. When asked about this, Patsy and John both said that they didn't remember putting the bowl on the table or even feeding pineapple to JonBenét.
Mhm.
And she's like 6, so, she can do some things on her own, but also there's a lot of things that your parents are going to help you with.
Yeah.
Burke, JonBenét's brother, his fingerprints were found on the bowl. But Patsy and John claimed that Burke had slept through the entire night and was only awoken the next morning several hours after the police had arrived.
So she's having a bowl of pineapple in the middle of the night?
Mm-hmm.
That's weird.
And what's even weirder, I don't think I mention it, but I think the bowl of pineapple had milk and a spoon in it. So like cereal, but pineapple instead of cereal.
That's gross.
I know. So of course, Boulder police were investigating what had happened to 6-year-old JonBenét. But it was made more difficult by how contaminated the crime scene was during the initial investigation, to include loss and contamination of evidence, lack of experienced and technical staff, evidence that was shared with the family, and delayed interviews with the family. So just they gave too much information, didn't get enough information, like just they dropped the ball.
Yeah.
And as it always goes, the focus at first fell solely on Patsy and John Ramsey. But by October 1997, almost a year later, there were over 1,600 people of interest in the case.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
I know. In early 1997, Lou Smith, a detective, came out of retirement to assist the Boulder County District Attorney's Office with the case.
Wow.
In May of 1998, Smith concluded that the evidence he found pointed away from the Ramseys being involved. But even with that evidence, the police department still believed that the Ramseys were somehow responsible.
Okay.
At this point, the DA took control of the investigation, which prompted Roy Romer, the Colorado governor, to name Michael Caine as the special prosecutor to initiate a grand jury. More drama came, though, when the 2 lead investigators in the case both had opposing views, which ultimately led to both of them resigning.
Oh my God.
Uh-huh.
Do we know their views?
Yep. So Lou Smith believed that the investigation had completely overlooked the intruder hypothesis. So he believes that there was an intruder, but the investigation is focusing too much on the Ramseys and completely ignoring the fact that there was probably an intruder.
Okay.
Steve Thomas believed that the DA's office had interfered with and failed to support the police investigation of the case. So he's saying that the DA wasn't helping with the police investigation, which kind of screwed up the investigation from the start.
Okay.
So those are kind of the two, like, houses of belief that both of them have. So one believes it's truly an intruder and that no one's looking at the intruder. The other one is just saying everything's been fucked from the beginning, so we can't really go anywhere with this.
Got it.
On March 12th, 1998, a grand jury investigation was called by investigators as 15 months had already passed since the murder. And on June 3rd, the lead investigator, Mark Beckner, said that there are, quote, significant results from the 1,058 pieces of evidence taken from the home. 1,058 pieces of evidence. But those details were not shared and have never been shared.
What?
So on September 15th, 1998, the grand jury convened and began their investigation, where they considered indicting the Ramseys for charges relating to the case. In 1999, the jury returned a true bill, which is the decision that the jury will present to the court, charging the Ramseys with placing the child at risk in a way that led to her death.
What?
They also charged the Ramseys with obstructing an investigation of murder due to John Ramsey tampering with the crime scene. They used the probable cause standard. So the indictment cited 2 counts each of child abuse. And said the parents did unlawfully, knowingly, recklessly, and feloniously permit a child to be unreasonably placed in a situation that posed a threat of injury to the child's life or health, which resulted in the death of JonBenét Ramsey, a child under the age of 16. So what they're pretty much saying is they didn't do it.
Like negligent homicide?
Yeah. Like if they had been better about things, this wouldn't have happened. But because they weren't, they are the reason why their daughter died, pretty much. Is what they're saying.
That's crazy.
I know.
Wait, I gotta sneeze. Okay.
You with a little hand. We'll have to post the picture. Mackenzie got tiny hands yesterday at her party. I'm wearing them right now. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the face rub. All right. Many experts testified in the case, to include DNA specialist Barry Scheck and forensic expert Henry Lee. We don't really go into what they said. They just testified.
Okay.
On September 30th, 1999, John, Andrew, and Melinda, JonBenét's half-siblings, testified in front of the grand jury as well, though they had already been cleared back in March of 1997. Interestingly, though, and maybe why they were questioned again, so John Andrew's suitcase had been found near the crime scene, in a spot where the family didn't usually store their suitcases. Inside of the suitcase was a blanket that had John Andrew's semen on it.
Ew!
So while this is weird, there was nothing that they could like relate him to anything, so he was
Right.
cleared.
Yeah.
But it's just like this kind of piece of information is just a
It's, like,
weird piece
odd.
of information. Yeah.
Yeah. It sticks out, but there's not really much context to it.
Right. But on October 13th, 1999, Alex Hunter, the Boulder County DA, refused to sign the indictment and did not prosecute the Ramseys, saying that there wasn't sufficient evidence to charge anyone in the murder.
I mean,
He did not believe that they met the standard of proving guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, which is required for a criminal conviction.
I mean, I get it.
Many people, the public mainly, thought that the grand jury's investigation had been inconclusive, meaning there wasn't enough to charge, but also not enough to let them go.
Yes.
So they're still kind of in this like weird little limbo area. By 2002, the statute of limitations on the grand jury's charges had expired. The grand jury's vote to indict wasn't revealed publicly until October 25th, 2013,
What?
when the previously sealed court documents were released.
Oh, shit.
So no one knew what the grand jury had said until like all these years later.
Well, goddamn.
On December 26, 2002, Mary Lacey. Oh, and this is kind of the part where we're now all over the place with time. The timeline no longer exists.
Okay. Okay.
So on December 26, 2002, Mary Lacey, a Boulder County DA, took over the investigation from the police. Then in April 2003, she agreed with a federal judge that the evidence was, quote, more consistent with the theory that an intruder murdered JonBenét than it was with the theory that Miss Ramsey did.
Interesting.
So Mary Lacey is saying it was an intruder. Like, the family had nothing to do with it. It was definitely an intruder.
Okay.
So because of this, on July 9th, 2008, 5 years later, the Boulder DA's office announced that due to newly developed DNA sampling and testing techniques, the Ramsey family were excluded as suspects in the case, and Lacey publicly exonerated the Ramseys. Years later, Stephen E. Pitt, a forensic psychiatrist hired by Boulder authorities, said, quote, Lacey's public exoneration of the Ramseys was a big slap in the face to Chief Beckner and the core group of detectives who had been working on the case for years.
Oh.
So he's pissed, saying,
this is the guy who thinks that.
This is just a forensic psychiatrist.
Oh, it's someone different.
Yeah, so he's pissed because he was like they were still always a suspect, but now you've exonerated them.
Right.
So now,
right.
They can never be a suspect.
Right. They can't?
I don't think so. Like, if you exonerate someone, doesn't that mean they can't ever be a suspect?
Well, they weren't. It's only if.
Or is it exonerated of those specific charges?
Yeah. Like,
okay.
Yeah. Like, once, if you were charged, you go to trial and the jury finds you not guilty, you can't be charged with the crime again.
Right. So, we briefly mentioned how in JonBenét's underwear there was a mixed blood sample. So in December of 2003, forensic investigators were able to extract enough material for them to establish a DNA profile of that blood.
Okay.
They found that the DNA belonged to an unknown male, excluding each of the Ramseys.
Okay.
That sample was submitted to the FBI's Combined DNA Index System, CODIS, a database containing more than 1.6 million DNA profiles, but the sample didn't match any of the profiles in the database.
Oh.
Then in 2016, a new report said that by using more sensitive techniques, it was revealed that the original DNA found contained genetic markers from 2 individuals other than JonBenét. So we have her DNA and then 2 other individuals.
Oh.
There had also been additional traces of DNA found on the cord and paintbrush, and 6 separate samples belonging to unknown individuals were found. Some believe it to be related to the killer, but some believe that these types of trace DNA could be on places and clothing in non-suspicious ways. Like that it just like, if I touch you as we're walking in a crowd, my DNA is on you, that there's no like nefarious reason for that.
Right.
And there was no forensic evidence to show that there was a stranger murder.
Okay.
So Boulder Police Chief Greg Testa stated in September 2016 that, quote, to date, the Boulder Police Department has processed more than 1,500 pieces of evidence.
Damn.
Including the analysis of over 200 DNA samples.
Whoa.
Our major crimes unit has received and reviewed or investigated over 20,000 tips, letters, or emails. Our detectives have traveled to over 18 states and interviewed or spoken with more than 1,000 individuals.
Wow.
So by 2016, they're doing a ton.
Seriously.
Okay. So now we're going to go over some of the suspects and the theories of this case.
Okay.
Just a disclaimer. All of the subjects listed are just those who I found during our research.
Okay.
None of these suspects are from us.
Okay.
We can say what we believe based on the evidence that others have found, but these are not our own thoughts. These are only done during the research and what people have proposed as I did my research.
So nothing official.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I say this because other podcasts have been sued by saying what they thought.
Oh.
So we're not going to do that.
So we're just sharing the facts.
We're sharing the facts of what other people have thought.
Okay.
And then at the end, we will say what we think though what we think is not official.
Correct.
Okay.
It's just an opinion.
It's just our opinion, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So there are two primary theories that are tossed around, and under each of these, there are smaller theories.
Okay.
So the first one is the family member theory.
Right.
So naturally, at the beginning, the parents were focused on the most as being possible suspects. Greg McCrary, a retired FBI profiler, said, quote, statistically, it is a 12-to-1 probability that it's a family member or a caregiver who was involved in the homicide of a child.
Yeah.
So police had their reasons to believe the Ramseys may be responsible.
I mean, it's not far-fetched.
No, not at all. So their reasons are there was no forced entry.
Mm-hmm.
They said the crime scene was staged with the ransom note.
Mm-hmm.
And they said
Yes.
that the Ramseys weren't cooperative in helping them solve JonBenét's murder.
Okay.
So James Brooke of the New York Times reported, quote, the Ramseys have consistently maintained their innocence, but for 4 months after the murder, they declined to talk to the police. Instead, they mounted a defense team that sounded like a defense lawyer's Christmas carol. 8 lawyers, 4 publicists, 3 private investigators, 2 handwriting analysts, and 1 retired FBI profiler.
And a partridge in a pear tree. That's crazy. 8 lawyers?
4 publicists, retired detectives.
That's absolutely
investigators.
bonkers.
Like, just they mounted a team, which the Ramseys said was due to their belief that the intruder theory wouldn't be looked into fully, which would lead to them being the key suspects. So they said that they hired all of these people because they are like, we're probably going to be the key suspects because no one's going to look into the intruder theory, so we need to make sure that we're protected.
I mean,
which
it's not stupid.
you see from both sides.
Yes.
You know, from the side of like, that's smart. Like, of course you should do that. And also the side, you went a little overboard.
Yeah.
So the first suspect that had immediately come to mind was Patricia Ramsey. I mean, obviously. So according
But
to...
why?
Because she's the mom.
Yeah, but...
She's the one who found the ransom note. She's the one who called the cops.
What's like her motive?
I will get into it.
Okay.
So the first suspect, like I said, was Patricia Ramsey. So according to Colorado Bureau of Investigation, CBI, a report, they said, quote, there are indications that the author of the ransom note is Patricia Ramsey. But that wasn't a very clear and definitive answer. So Michael Baden, a board-certified forensic pathologist, said that in his 60-year career, he had never seen a note like this one. He did not think that it was written by an outside stranger, that it had come from the family or someone connected to the family. But a federal court ruled that it was highly unlikely that Patsy wrote the note, and they came to this conclusion by citing 6 certified handwriting experts.
Okay.
So one theory for it being her is that she struck JonBenét in a fit of rage. So JonBenét was going through a phase of bedwetting, and Patsy was getting frustrated with it.
Oh.
This theory says that she had reached her limit with the bedwetting and flew into a fit of rage. The theory goes on to say that Patsy believed she had killed JonBenét with the blow, like hit her. So to cover up what actually happened, she strangled her. But against this theory, Patsy did not have a known history of uncontrolled anger. Later, Burke would even say, quote, we didn't get spanked, nothing of the sort, nothing close, nothing near laying a finger on us, let alone killing your child.
And I feel like, too, didn't the coroner say that both things killed her?
Yeah, so it was like the garrote and like something with like the cranial...
Like hitting her head.
Trauma, yeah.
So I feel like you can't cover it up with the strangulation.
Right.
Because you would know if it was just, if they died actually from the strangulation, or
a coroner knows that, but I guess like if you're just a normal everyday person, you hit someone, you don't know if that killed them or not, so just you strangle like.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
No, that I could see. Yeah, like I've been thinking, I'm like, it's very possible that she got hit in the head, pushed, whatever, and knocked her head, and it was an accident. And then to like cover it up.
Right.
All these, they did all the other things to make it, again, look like something it's not.
Yep. So another theory connecting Patsy is that she was jealous of JonBenét. So Patsy,
6-year-old?
So Patsy had been in the pageant lifestyle growing up as well. But now it was her daughter getting all of the awards and all the attention. So it was kind of a thing where like the theory is that she brought JonBenét into this lifestyle, and JonBenét was doing so much better than she had ever done.
I mean... It's not like crazy. I just feel like that's something that would happen when she was like, she'd be like older.
Yeah.
Not fucking 6.
Right. Then we have an interesting point. So I mentioned how the morning after Christmas, Patsy was still wearing the outfit she had been wearing the night before.
Oh,
which is just odd in general. Like, it's not like she came home and drunkenly passed out in bed.
That's what I was thinking.
No, it's like they came home, they got the kids ready for bed, like they put JonBenét to bed, Burke to bed, and then she just goes to bed wearing the same outfit.
Okay, yeah, that's weird.
So the police said that when they arrived at the house the next morning, it looked as if Patsy hadn't slept the night before. Not in a my daughter is missing way, but I haven't gone to sleep yet way.
Oh.
Also, some of the fibers from her shirt would be found in the duct tape that was covering JonBenét's mouth.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. So that's kind of all we have on Patsy.
Okay.
So kind of at this point, what are your thoughts on Patsy? Again, these are just our own thoughts and our own opinions. So what is your own thought and your own opinion on
I don't
Patsy?
think it seems a little nutso to me that to say she was jealous of her 6-year-old daughter.
Okay.
But like I said, I could see it being that an accident happened.
Mm-hmm. And then they're covering it up.
And then they're covering it up. So maybe she's the one who caused the accident, or maybe she just helped cover it up.
Okay. So the next person in the family would be John.
Mm-hmm.
So he seemed to know exactly where to search for JonBenét's body, especially considering the room was not well used and it wasn't a well-known room in the house.
Yeah.
So it's very odd that the first place he goes when asked to search the house was right to that door. Detective Art said that when John brought up the body, she knelt down beside it and was inches away from John. She was so convinced that the murder was in the house with her that she claimed to have quietly counted the bullets in her holster, just in case she had to use one.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Another detective on the scene thought that John's behavior was odd as well. He claimed to have overheard John making arrangements to fly the family to Atlanta just hours after the murder, which they did end up doing.
Right.
In their private plane.
Shut up. Shut up.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God.
Which he later said was only because they were asked to leave the house and he wanted to return to their old state where they had lived for 25 years before. So again, kind of the whole being back with family in the safe place that you know.
Right, but also
But it was just hours after the murder. Like, I'm sorry. If my daughter, like something like this happened, I'm not leaving.
Right.
I'm going to be there to answer cop questions, to do interviews, to be in the area if I am needed at any moment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Going to Atlanta is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Because clearly they had the means. They could have gone
anywhere. But I mean, I get why Atlanta of all the places.
Yes.
But I wouldn't have left.
Right. It's definitely, it's odd. It is odd. I don't know if it's odd enough to say that that means he did it, but it's definitely, it's weird.
Then we have the Burke theory.
The Burke theory. The brother.
The brother.
Okay.
So Burke was 9 years old at the time of JonBenét's murder, and he was interviewed at least 3 times by investigators. The first 2, like, relatively quickly after. So the first 2 were fine, and a review had even been done by a child psychologist who stated that it appeared as if the Ramseys had a healthy and caring family.
Okay.
The Burke theory came from a group of experts who evaluated the evidence for a CBS show which aired on September 18th and 19th of 2016 called The Case of JonBenét Ramsey.
Okay.
So the group theorized that the night of the murder,
and are these like the police?
No, this is just a group of experts.
What kind?
I don't know.
Kind of experts.
Website said a group of experts.
Okie dokie.
So they evaluated evidence for this show.
Okay.
So they theorized that the night of the murder, JonBenet had been downstairs with Burke and had stolen a piece of pineapple from his bowl.
With the milk.
Because we have the pineapple in her stomach, so we know that happened.
Right.
They believe that he hit her in the head with a heavy object, possibly a flashlight, perhaps not intending to kill her.
Sure.
The group said that they believe the ransom note was an attempt to cover up the circumstances of her death by his parents.
There's definitely been a couple, there's a Criminal Minds episode.
Of course there is.
And like the older brother got like pissed and like pushed his younger brother and killed him.
Oh, interesting.
There was a serial predator in the area at the time, so they used that as like to say that their son was like one of those victims.
Right. Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what they're kind of trying to say was that Burke accidentally killed her, not meaning to, but accidentally killed her.
Right. And then
so the parents are covering it up.
See, that's kind of like what I was thinking in the back of my mind, because I'm like, especially if she's having fucking pineapple
right
in the middle of the night.
Yeah, like with her brother.
Right. Like that just seems so odd for a 6-year-old to get up by themselves and go for that. I don't know. But I also am like, because then that would make sense is why the fabric or whatever, the fibers from the mom are on the tape.
Yep.
Why dad knew where to go. Why there was both the hit on the head and strangulation.
Yep.
Like it makes sense to when you put it all together, but I understand that like there's no clear evidence that points to that.
Exactly.
But like that is logical.
So on behalf of Burke, his counsel filed defamation lawsuits against CBS, the producers of the program, and several of its participants based on many of its claims. So kind of the defamation of like, you blamed our son.
Right.
But what is interesting is that there was a, quote, perfectly rectangular defect found during the autopsy on JonBenét's head. The flashlight that was found on the counter fit the 8.5-inch gash on her skull to perfection.
Oh.
And a wound had been found on JonBenét's back. It was believed to have come from a stun gun, which I will get into.
A stun gun?
Yep, I'll get to that fact in a second. But it also happens to align with the edges of one of Burke's toy train tracks, which some suggested had been used by Burke to poke his sister's unconscious body looking for a response.
Oh.
So they believe he hit her in the head with a flashlight. She falls. She's not responding, so he takes his toy to kind of poke her.
Yeah.
Because you're 9 years old.
Sure.
Obviously, you're going to poke.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
kind of what you're going to do. So they believe that that's him poking.
Not a stun gun.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, I'll get to the stun gun in a second, but it just so happens that his train tracks matched up exactly with the marks that they found on her body.
Okay.
So under this theory, let's talk about the 911 call.
Yeah.
So according to the operator who took Patsy's call on the morning of December 26th, Moshella, the operator, said that the call seemed rehearsed. John Middlemore, a Harvard-educated author and lie detector, said that said that liars will often rehearse their lies in a way to make the lie sound more genuine when in actuality it's not. Also, multiple voices can be heard in the background of the 911 call. So thanks to investigators and modern technology, 3 phrases from 3 different people can be heard at the end of the call.
Okay.
Investigators allegedly heard John Ramsey saying, "We're not speaking to you." Then Patsy saying, "What did you do? Help me, Jesus." Burke is then heard saying, "What did you find?" So if this is true, it completely goes against what the family told the police. They told the police that Burke was asleep all night and all morning and didn't wake up until a few hours after police had arrived. So if he is in the 911 call, that's a complete lie.
Right. He woke up a few hours?
Yeah, so they say that the cops got there, because the cops got there at like 6:02 or something like that.
And he didn't wake up?
They said he didn't wake up until like 8 or 9.
What?
Right.
With all those fucking people in his house?
Yep. Yeah.
And why wouldn't his parents wake him up?
Right.
If you can't find one kid, you're not going to go like that.
Like the first thing you're going to do is go check on your other kid.
And make sure they're okay.
And then wake them up and have them in your possession.
Correct. That's weird.
Also, the investigators picked up on the repetition and transition of select words.
Okay.
So Patsy repeatedly used the word just. According to statement analyst Mark McClish, quote, "When people minimize their actions using the word just, it is an indication that they may have done more than they are telling you."
I also noticed too, unless I misheard, but I could have sworn you said she had.
She had what?
Like, instead of saying like she has, like present tense.
She has what though?
It was, I don't know, hair maybe, like the color of her hair or something like that.
Oh, let's go look up at the call again.
But I could have sworn you said she had whatever.
Let's see. She's 6 years old. She is blonde. My daughter is missing. No, I don't think I said had.
Oh.
But that's a good little pickup.
Well, if you did say had, it's a good thing I said something, or else more people would be confused. Because I'm like, oh, had.
Had?
Why are you saying had?
So this statement analyst is trying to say that maybe this is Patsy trying to minimize her actions by using the word just all the time.
Every time I use the word just, I think about that. But I'm like, I have to use it.
I'm just doing this.
Right.
She also switches from saying gone at the beginning of the call to then using the word missing. So McClish states, quote, "Truthful people will usually use the same language. So it seems to indicate deception when using different words."
Wait, what did she say? She just said my daughter's gone?
She says my daughter's gone, and then she starts to use saying my daughter is missing.
Okay.
So it seems abnormal to investigators because it seems rehearsed, including Burke, though he should have been sleeping, like the whole situation there.
Right.
And the repetition and shift of keywords. So that's why they're saying this 911 call is kind of odd. Like, it seems rehearsed because of all of these reasons.
Is like the phrases that people can hear with like who they think they're hearing.
So yeah.
Is that like official?
No. That's a theory. Like I can try to find the recording and we can try to listen to it after this. But yeah, it's like they believe in the background because it's like as if Patsy didn't hang up at the end. So the 911 person stays on the call until you hang up, I think. And
yeah,
so
because she's calling her name.
Right. So you hear her calling Patsy's name at the end.
Yeah.
So John Douglas, who we have talked about before, was the unit chief of the FBI and was the first criminal profiler. He contends that the Ramseys did not kill their daughter.
Oh.
Douglas said that in cases where a family member kills another family member, they will leave the body to be found by someone else. So in this case, John, the father, found the body. He also said that they would be likely to cover the child's body in a protective manner. In JonBenét's case, only her torso was covered. He also continued saying that John had removed the tape from JonBenét's mouth and loosened the cord around her, which goes against the staging of her body theory.
Yeah, no, now that you say it that way, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that makes a lot of sense that, like, you would wait for someone else to find it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's down there with his friend Fleet. Like, why wouldn't you have had Fleet with you as you're doing this, you know? So someone else sees it instead of him being the one to see it, remove everything, and bring it upstairs. So yeah, it does completely go against staging the body.
And it also, but like I said before, it also makes sense for him to like do all those things to his daughter, like to take that stuff off.
100%.
Yeah. So like that's not weird. Like it wasn't weird that he did that.
Right. No, I don't think it was either.
But like that's a good point of like having someone else find the body.
Mm-hmm.
That's, yeah.
So how do we feel about the family theory before we go into our next theory?
It fits.
Okay.
You know, it's you can, obviously there's no concrete evidence, but I feel like the theory of like the accident and then trying to cover it up, like it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not far-fetched.
Right.
You know, you can piece together things. But now that you say that end piece, I'm like,
you think you know one thing and then you get more information. You're like, oh my God, I don't know anymore.
I feel like too, I don't feel like I fall one way more than the other. I feel like the family theory makes sense, but I'm also like, there definitely could have been an intruder.
So that is our next theory.
Yeah.
So that is the intruder theory. So there was no forced entry and no footsteps in the snow outside. This theory was followed due to an unidentified boot mark that was left in the basement room where JonBenét's body was found. So hundreds of DNA tests were performed to try to find a match to the DNA that had been found during the autopsy, though nothing concrete was ever found.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing, too. None of the family's DNA was found.
Correct.
With, like, on her.
Correct.
Or whatever. Yeah. Forgot about that.
So we have some persons of interest, like early persons of interest.
Okay.
So we have Bill McReynolds. He was a neighbor of the Ramseys and he played Santa Claus. So this is the Santa Claus theory. So McReynolds was a friend of the Ramseys who had dressed up as Santa Claus a week before JonBenét's murder to entertain the neighborhood kids during the Patsy's famous Christmas gathering.
Okay.
It was rumored that McReynolds paid a little too much attention to JonBenet, even going as far as to set up a secret visit from Santa Claus himself on Christmas.
Oh.
He even chose JonBenet to be his special friend. So this part is a bit much because JonBenet gifted a vial of glitter to him, and he brought that vial with him into heart surgery that he was having. He even asked his wife to mix the gold glitter in with his ashes were he to die.
That's weird.
So there isn't really anything that could link him to the murder, and he truly may just be a friendly older man.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
like
absolutely.
Like a really nice older Santa guy.
Yeah.
So that's the Santa Claus theory. I don't think I hold too much weight on that one.
No, but it would make sense why she's up in the middle of the night.
Exactly. It would make sense why she's up in the middle of the night.
And like, if she let him in.
Oh, yeah.
Then
there would be no forced entry.
There would be no forced entry.
And then he would have been able to just leave the way he came.
Was anything, do we know, like I know there was no forced entry, but was anything left unlocked? Do we know?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm not sure. That's not really something that I found during the research.
Yeah.
And I didn't think of that, so I didn't like go on a wild goose chase searching for that. But it wasn't mentioned anywhere. Like in all the articles I read and everything, it was never mentioned that like a door was left unlocked.
Okay.
But I will get to something.
Okay.
Then we have Chris Wolf. He's a local reporter who had been reported to the police as a suspect by his then girlfriend. What? So his girlfriend just calls the cops and say, hey, I think Chris Wolf did it.
What?
Literally nothing came from this, and that's all we have on him.
That's so crazy.
I know.
That makes no sense.
And then we have Linda Hoffman Pugh, the family's housekeeper. So Linda worked for the family as their housekeeper with her husband, Mervyn, who worked as their handyman. From the beginning, Hoffman Pugh voiced her suspicions that Patsy had accidentally killed JonBenet.
Does the housekeeper live there?
No, I think she just comes in and cleans.
Okay.
And then leaves. And her husband is a handyman who just comes in, does work, and leaves.
Okay.
But Patsy had her own things to say about Hoffman Pugh. She claimed that Pugh had struggled financially and had asked her for a loan of several $1,000s, which Patsy had declined. This theory says that Pugh had led JonBenét down to the basement in an attempt to trick her employers into leaving money for her ransom. But Pugh didn't have an alibi. The night of the murder, she was asleep in bed while her husband was asleep on the couch.
That's so dumb, though. Why would you hide the kid in the basement of their own house?
Right.
That's so stupid.
Right. But all evidence implicating her is nothing but circumstantial at this point. So
yeah, that doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah. Then we have Michael Helgoth, a man who died by an apparent suicide after JonBenét's death.
Okay.
So Helgoth was a 26-year-old electrician who worked in a nearby auto salvage yard. He was known to be a hellraiser and was tied to an alleged property dispute involving the Ramseys.
Okay.
So it had been suspected that once he caught wind that he could be a suspect, he committed suicide. The suspicions came after a boot print found at the Ramseys, like I said, they found that random one in the room, was allegedly similar to his boots. So his death occurred 2 days after a press conference in 1997 where the Boulder DA announced they were zeroing in on a new suspect.
But they didn't name his name.
Nope. But he committed suicide. He remains cleared by DNA, though.
Okay.
In 2003, there was a defamation lawsuit related to the Wolf versus Ramsey case. Oh, I don't know why I wouldn't have put that up with Wolf. So this, I guess, goes back to Chris Wolf.
I was like, wait.
So, wow, yeah, why didn't I put that up there? Okay, well, anywho, in this case, Judge Julie E. Carnes wrote, quote, "There is virtually no evidence that supports Wolf's theory that the Ramseys murdered their daughter, but abundant evidence to support the Ramseys' belief that an intruder entered their home at some point during the night of December 25th, 1996 and killed their daughter." Now, maybe that doesn't relate to Wolf.
Wait.
In this case, Julie Carnes wrote, "There is virtually no evidence to support Wolf's theory that the Ramseys murdered their child."
So the Ramseys sued Wolf.
I'm not really sure.
For defamation?
I don't know, but abundant evidence to support the Ramseys' belief that an intruder entered their home at some point during the night and killed their daughter.
Okay.
So either way, this judge is saying there's no evidence that the Ramseys murdered their child, that it has to be an intruder.
Okay. But the Wolf guy.
I'm not sure if it relates to the Wolf guy, because I think I would have put it under his name if I had made it relate to him. So maybe it's not related to him.
Maybe it's a different Wolf?
Just another Wolf.
Yeah. But you did say he was a reporter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's what he reported.
Maybe. I don't know. Wow. Sorry for not having that information. Lou Smith, the detective who came out of retirement to assist the Boulder County DA's office with the case, concluded that an intruder had committed the crime. So he's the one who left the case because they wouldn't listen to his intruder theory.
Oh, okay.
So he said on the night that JonBenét was killed, there had been 2 windows that were left slightly open. They were left open to allow for the electrical cords for the Christmas lights outside. There was also a broken basement window and 1 unlocked door. So here we have some unlocked things.
An unlocked door to the outside.
I don't know. It says 1 unlocked door, so I believe it would be to the outside. So the window broken in the basement was due to John Ramsey. He had locked himself out of the house one night, like a couple nights before all of this happened, and had broken that window to get back in and just hadn't gotten around to fixing it yet.
Okay.
So that window was broken in the basement and was an access point.
Okay.
And so I guess there was another unlocked door as well.
So
our Santa
even if
theory,
the intruder didn't break the window,
they could have potentially gone in and out through the broken window.
Right, because it hadn't been fixed yet.
Smith believes that the intruder entered through the broken basement window, as there was also a suitcase right underneath the window that had faint markings on it.
Oh, yeah, so maybe they stood on it.
That's okay. This is what Smith's believing.
Okay. And I wish I knew the layout of the basement to know, the room versus where the window was.
I think they're not far from each other.
Okay.
So in the basement, there were also peanut-shaped foam packing material and leaves, which Smith said someone tracked into the house from the broken basement window.
And there's no door in the basement that leads to outside?
I'm not 100% sure, actually.
Do we know which door was left unlocked?
Okay.
Nope.
An odd fact, there was a metal baseball bat found outside of the Ramseys' home. Fibers found on that matched a carpet found in the basement near the storage room that JonBenét was found in. So the bat had been inside, and now the bat's outside.
Was her head, visibly bashed?
There was an 8.5-inch gash.
So most likely whatever hit her probably had blood on it?
Potentially.
Okay.
So part of this goes off of something with the suitcase, the whole like window thing.
Mhm.
So we remember that John Andrew's suitcase was found in the basement,
Yeah.
but not where the suitcases were typically kept. Investigators theorized that the killer had tried to put JonBenét's body in the suitcase, but for whatever reason, just decided to leave her and the suitcase behind.
Interesting. I'm assuming the suitcase was too small, or
I don't know. It just said that
They
the
just
killer
decided against it.
theorized that they had tried to put her in there and then just for whatever reason decided to leave her behind. So critics go against this theory, like that someone entered through the window,
Mhm.
because there were still intact cobwebs in the basement window.
Oh.
Meaning that had someone crept through the window, the
Those would've been
cobwebs would
gone.
no longer be there.
And was all the glass completely removed?
Enough that you could crawl in and out of it.
Okay.
Because that's how John Ramsey had gotten in that one day when he locked himself out.
Yes.
So the steel gate that covered the window also had undisturbed cobwebs and undisturbed foliage around it.
Okay.
So for all of these reasons, they're like, we don't think anyone entered in or out of this.
Yeah.
But Smith continued on, saying that the intruder used a stun gun to subdue JonBenét in order to take her to the basement. The intruder then murdered her and went upstairs where they wrote the ransom note. So that's where we get kind of the 2 marks that they saw on her.
Yeah.
That's why he's believing it's a stun gun.
And so is it a possibility that the intruder didn't kidnap her for ransom, but again, still making it look like something it's not?
Yeah, I mean, any theory is possible at this point.
And like maybe they didn't go in with the intention to kill her, but to assault her.
Yeah.
And then to maybe lead people in a different direction.
Honestly, at this point, anything could be a theory.
Yeah.
So John Douglas supported Smith's theory, but because Smith was so set on the intruder theory, he actually resigned from the investigation on September 20th, 1998, 5 days after the grand jury convened against the Ramseys. In his resignation letter, he said that, quote, a very dangerous killer is still out there. He then worked on the case on his own until his death in 2010.
That's crazy.
Mhm.
I will say that I do think it was dumb of law enforcement to just have tunnel vision.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think both avenues should have been investigated aggressively.
Oh, 100%.
Like one group of people doing the family, one group of people doing the other
Yes.
thing, because it's like
Both of them are valid theories.
correct. And until you can find something conclusive, you don't want to just put all your eggs in one basket, because then someone's going to get away, or
Yep.
possibly.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
No,
and like
absolutely.
once you have something that can definitively point you one way or another, that's when you focus on one.
Yep. There were also the cybercrime specialists who argue that due to JonBenét being heavily involved in the child beauty pageant scene,
Mm-hmm.
that she may have garnered the attention of some unsavory people.
You know, she is in a spotlight, even if it's just a local one.
Yeah, no, exactly. And there are child pornographers and pedophiles who are affiliated with that scene as well.
Yeah.
Because of its children. Like,
People are gross.
yeah.
Hold on.
Surprised you haven't been chugging water today.
This is the third one I filled up.
Oh, okay, good.
I just paused because I was drinking the Sprite, but I don't know if my tummy is liking that. Can't tell if it's the food or...
You need like what is it, ginger ale?
I don't like ginger ale. Unless it's a whiskey ginger.
Oh my god, that would probably not be the best for you right now.
Nope. Okay, continue.
Okay. So it was also determined that in the months before JonBenét's murder, there were more than 100 burglaries in the Ramseys neighborhood.
Oh, interesting.
There were also...
What if someone was going into burglar and she was eating her pineapple?
That is not a theory that I have read.
Haha, it's the Kenzie theory.
The Mackenzie theory.
Not me as a suspect. Just
you?
my idea.
I think you would have been 4 years old when this happened.
I would have been
no, 2.
I would
Because it happened in 96.
I would have just turned
Yeah.
2.
Yeah. So I really don't think you could have done this.
No, I think I have a pretty solid alibi.
So there were also 38 registered sex offenders living within a 2-mile or 3.2-kilometer radius of the Ramseys home.
See, that's what I mean. Like, you gotta have an open mind. Even if statistics say one way or another, like, don't rule it. Like, anything is possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. So one of those people, one who Smith had identified, was a man named Gary Howard Oliva. Oliva. Oliva.
Not Olivia?
No, there's no I there. Oliva.
Oliva.
So Oliva was a 32-year-old known sex offender who had been living on and off in Boulder.
Well, okay, wait, though. Because I feel like you can get on that list for...
Like peeing in a playground.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, like, when you say sex offender...
I'll get into him.
Okay.
So after apprehending him on drug charges in 2000, police found a magazine cutout of JonBenét in his backpack. He was released, but suspicion on him remained. One of Oliva's high school friends, Michael Vale, came forward at some point with an allegation supporting Gray's suspicion. Vale claimed that, not long after the murder, Oliva had called him very distraught. He confessed to, quote, have heard a little girl. I heard a little girl. Allegedly, he also wrote, quote, I never loved anyone like I did JonBenét, and yet I let her slip and her head bashed in half and I watched her die. It was an accident. Please believe me.
He wrote this or said it?
She was not like the other kids. Allegedly, he wrote this.
Where? On what?
He had like a journal or something.
What?
So allegedly, that's what he wrote.
But this is like not like an official... Is it an official investigator saying this?
No, this is Vale, his friend, had claimed this.
That he found this note.
Yeah. So he is claiming that Oliva had called him, confessed to hurting a girl, and then he also said that Oliva had wrote this whole thing about like killing JonBenét.
And has Oliva said anything back? Like in response to this?
I think I'll get to it.
Okay.
We'll see. So Vale also said that the knots used in the garrote were similar to those used in an accident where Oliva had attempted to choke his mother with a telephone cord.
What?
So Oliva had tried to choke his mom using kind of a garrote as well. And the knots that he used in the telephone cord were the same knots that were used in the garrote to kill JonBenét.
That's crazy.
There was a rumor that Oliva also apparently had possible connections to a theory that linked the marks found on JonBenét's body with a stun gun, as he had a stun gun of his own at the time of his arrest.
For the drug charge?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
But he had been cleared of any connection by DNA testing. But in June of 2016, he was arrested for 2 counts of attempted sexual exploitation of a child and 1 count of sexual exploitation of a child for possessing child pornography. So I don't think he got on this list by peeing in a playground.
No.
Yeah, he's like an actual disgusting scumbag.
Oh my God. I mean, he's highly suspicious.
Yeah.
Like, he would have definitely been a strong person to look into.
But he was cleared by DNA. 14 years earlier, he had been publicly identified as a suspect in an October 2002 episode of 48 Hours Investigates. So he's always been a suspect.
Yeah.
But the DNA just doesn't link him. Then on September 5th, 2016, the killing of JonBenét Ramsey, The Truth Uncovered, broadcast by A&E, concluded that, quote, an unidentified male committed this crime.
Okay.
So that's kind of all we have on that part. Then on August...
They never found out who was burglaring?
Because there were so many people.
Do they think it was the same person?
I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, they just know that there were 100 burglaries, like reported in the neighborhood, but I don't think they ever found who was doing it or made any connection between anything.
Okay.
Then on August 15th, 2006, a man named John Mark Carr was arrested in Bangkok, Thailand,
The fuck?
following his confessions that he had murdered JonBenét. So he had been on the lam living in Thailand after facing child pornography charges in the U.S. So Carr was a 41-year-old school teacher.
Oh!
Over email, Carr reached out to a University of Colorado Boulder professor named Michael Tracy over email regarding a documentary Tracy was making on the case. In the emails, Carr was revealing to Tracy his sexual fascination with JonBenét.
That's disgusting.
Tracy reported Carr to the police, who then arrested him as a possible suspect.
Ugh.
So good on you, Tracy.
Hell yeah.
Exactly what you should have done. In his confession, he said that he drugged, sexually assaulted, then accidentally killed JonBenét. He recalled the strangling as a love game gone wrong.
Ew!
So this is super disturbing, so skip ahead a bit if you want. Again, you don't have the ability.
It's me skipping ahead. I don't want to hear this.
His confessions included a series of diary entries allegedly written from the scene of the crime.
Oh?
He wrote, quote, close your pretty eyes, sweetheart. Daxis, a name he refers to as himself, loves you so much. Oh God, I love you, JonBenét, and my lover's eyes are slowly closing.
What the fuck?
During his confession, he provided basic facts that were already publicly known and was unable to provide any actually convincing details.
Yeah.
Further casting doubt on his confession was him saying he had drugged JonBenét as no drugs had been found in her system during the autopsy. And even more, his DNA did not match the DNA that had been found on JonBenét's body, and he had never been in Boulder.
That's so psychotic.
I know.
That is fucking psychotic.
But according to CNN, quote, authorities also said that they did not find any evidence linking Carr to the crime scene. So this is just one of those awful false confessions.
Yeah.
So since JonBenét was reported missing to December 20th, 2021, so all those years, the Boulder Police Department's major crime unit has received and reviewed more than 21,000 tips, letters, and emails. Detectives...
21,000. Not even 2,100. 21,000. That's crazy.
Detectives have visited 19 states to interview more than 1,000 people connected to the crime.
Wow.
And we still have nothing.
No idea.
Patsy Ramsey passed away on June 24th, 2006, after a 13-year battle with ovarian cancer at the age of only 49, never knowing what happened to her daughter.
Oh my God.
She was buried next to JonBenét in Marietta, Georgia. Burke has been quiet on the issues for years, but on September 12th, 2016, after 20 years, Burke sat down for an interview with Dr. Phil.
Oh, sweet baby Jesus.
Quote, it was probably some pedophile in the pageant audience, he said. And he said this twice. So that's what his theory is.
Okay.
So there we have the case of JonBenét Ramsey. What do we think of the intruder theory?
I kind of am leaning towards that.
The intruder?
Yeah. Because I feel like if it was an accident and it was like a setup of some kind, I feel like it would, I feel like both parents would have to help.
Yeah. I mean, that's the main Burke theory is like, again, not our thoughts, but that I've heard other people say is that they do believe that Burke accidentally killed her and it was the parents covering it up. So that's one of the main theories I've heard. And then obviously just the intruder theory that someone came in.
I think.
Yeah, what do you think? Again, your complete opinion.
I think someone came in from that unlocked door and for whatever reason, she was up in the middle of the night eating pineapple with milk in it. Whatever. I mean, 6-year-olds do weird shit. I know I did.
Yep.
And saw the intruder. The intruder panicked. Like maybe she like went to run or something. And they tried to grab her. And in that process, like she hit her head. And then they freaked out and did the cover up.
Right.
To make it look like something it's not.
But then why the ransom note?
To make it look like something it's not.
Oh, okay.
Like, because I'm like, okay, if it is a burglar, they're close with the family, they could still know about the bonus, and like that's maybe why they were going to rob them.
Ooh, and if it is a family member, then at the party that they had a couple days earlier,
they could have left the door unlocked
downstairs and left door unlocked.
Exactly, and maybe it's not even a family member. Maybe it's just like a family friend.
Right, just like a friend who was at the party.
Yeah, and left it unlocked, and
so knowing that they could come in after. But yeah, so do you feel you now have a good understanding of the JonBenét Ramsey case?
Yes.
Good.
I do.
They have another documentary coming out sometime soon because there's thousands of documentaries on this. There's one coming out soon and they're like, I think they have more evidence or someone thinks that they know who did it, something like that.
Everyone thinks they know who did it.
I know. We think we know who did it.
Like if someone came out tomorrow and was like, they found conclusive evidence that like the brother did it or like it was someone in her direct family, I wouldn't be surprised.
Right. I wouldn't either.
But I also, like if someone came out tomorrow and said that they found conclusive evidence that it was an intruder, I also would not be surprised.
Right. Exactly.
Like,
yeah, like I feel like any theory that they come up with, I won't be surprised unless it's like some super outlandish thing. But I feel like, you know, like your typical intruder theory or your typical family member theory, I wouldn't be surprised.
It's just, I feel like too, like, yes, obviously DNA is important and like does, you know, you can't make that up kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's also like you can't just look at one piece of evidence.
Right. You can't.
You know, and I wonder too if they could do like that genealogy thingy that is really big right now where like they find people through their
maybe
family, like through that ancestry
like the
stuff.
like 23andMe and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And like kind of narrow it down from there in terms of like finding people.
Maybe they're doing it in the background.
Yeah, maybe they're doing it now.
Yeah.
Maybe
and
they're
like
doing it now.
in a couple years we might get the answers.
That's crazy.
This is just one that like no one knows what happened.
And who's to say, though, that DNA was from that night?
Right. Which is also disgusting then.
Correct.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Lots of questions.
Lots of questions.
I definitely think it sucks that, like, the crime scene was so
messed up, so tampered with.
Yeah. I feel
And
like,
even just like not even on purpose. It was just like inadvertently messed up.
right. Because you're not going to think about that.
No.
Like, that's not when you're in that state of mind.
Like, I know for a fact, like, if you're grieving and stuff and you have family come over, like, even, like, you don't know anything happened to your daughter yet. So you're still grieving the fact that you don't know what's going on.
Right.
And, like, going through all of that, you're not thinking straight. So your family's obviously going to come and be like, what can we do to help you feel better? Let's clean the kitchen. Let's clean your living
Absolutely.
room. Like, let's clean up so you're not surrounded by clutter as you're going through this moment.
Yeah.
Like, I totally get that. Like, I know some people are like, I think it's weird. It's like, I don't, though. Like, yeah, it's unfortunate. And it probably did mess up some stuff.
Nothing about it seems deliberate.
Right, exactly. That's the whole thing. None of it seems deliberate.
None of it seems deliberate to, like, mess up the investigation.
Right.
Like, I don't know.
Wild stuff. So, happy birthday.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I knew she was found in her house.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that the family and, like, the brother are obviously, like, big suspects in it. But I did not know the order that things happened in. I didn't know about the ransom note. I had no idea about the ransom note.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, I'm glad I was able to enlighten you.
Yeah, first one. First time.
Good. Amazing.
I've been
You've been changed for the better.
Sure. I'll say that. Wow. I feel like you could there's so many things that you could say that are all, like, plausible for one reason or another.
Yep. And now you can watch one of the 500 documentaries about it and be going in with all of your knowledge.
True. You set up my background knowledge so well.
Oh, thank you so much.
That I'm going to be able to be like, that's right, that's wrong.
Like, I've heard so much about this case, like, just throughout all the years, that when you asked for me to do it, I was like, oh God, okay, this is a big ask. And then I was like, I know so many little bits that it took me so much to, like, because I didn't want to put any of just, like, my own knowledge in here. I wanted to know that I could back it up somewhere.
Yeah.
And so I would go look and I was like, okay, no, there's a Santa Claus theory. Okay, found the Santa Claus theory.
Yeah.
I know she was wearing her outfit from the night before. Okay, found the article about the night before. Like, all of those little things.
Do we know what JonBenét was in?
No, I think she was probably in her PJs. Like, she had changed into her pajamas.
Okay.
Because she had gotten home after the Christmas party. They all got home and got ready for bed and went to bed.
Except for mom.
We don't know what mom was doing. And she was still wearing her clothes the night before. And, like,
but Dad wasn't.
No, he wasn't. And I think they mentioned, like, Patsy Ramsey somewhere. So I could be wrong. I didn't find this in my research, but I think I've heard it at one point. That she was always, like, the put together kind of person.
Yeah.
So she's not going to wear the clothes from the night before. Like, she's going to have a different outfit the next day.
Yeah.
So that was, like, kind of a weird thing that she's wearing those clothes from the night before because that's not who she was.
And did they look slept in?
I don't think so. I think it, like, what one of the people said was she didn't look like she had slept. Like, she looked like she had stayed up all day. Not that she, like, went to bed and woke up like that, but that she hadn't gone to bed at all. So not that she slept in her clothes, that she had stayed awake all night in the clothes and then just didn't change them in the morning.
What was the outfit?
I don't know. Some thing she wore to the Christmas party the night before. So.
And was the Christmas party at their house?
It was a sweater. No, they had a Christmas party a couple days before.
But
okay. This was the one. I don't think it was like a Christmas party per se.
Yeah.
But they had gone over to their friend Fleet White's house for Christmas. So they did Christmas at their home.
Yeah.
Where they exchanged gifts with the kids.
Yeah.
And then went over here for, like, Christmas evening.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't think we'll ever have updates on this case. But if we ever do, we know we will talk about them.
Oh, 100%. Oh, speaking of updates, I have one.
Oh, yes.
So remember our West Virginia story that was sent to us by our friend?
Yep.
She sent me another update.
Oh, yes.
And the guy who's the main suspect, the Preston Pierce, I think his name is.
Oh, yeah. The guy who, like, was at the bar and stuff.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I honestly, my memory's so terrible. But I do know he's always been kind of like the crime suspect. Yeah. Apparently his house was searched.
Ooh.
By, like, FBI, I think, is what the article said.
Was anything found?
Not that has been reported. She
Oh.
sends me the updates.
Oh,
Like,
good.
yeah, she'll send me like posts from online or different articles about it. She does the
Ooh.
work for me.
Well, as it goes farther, we should have just like a little like bonus episode
Yeah.
that we do like a quick recap of your case and
Yeah.
then kind of go over all of the new stuff that's been found, especially because this one is so close to one of our listeners.
Yep.
So I feel like it would be important to kind of like
And it's like currently obviously
exactly
ongoing.
Yep. So yeah, maybe as we get a little bit more information, we can do like a quick mini episode
Yeah.
where you do a brief update and then kind of give us all the new stuff that's going on.
Yeah. So nothing yet that I know of in terms of what they found.
Wow.
But I do know.
Well,
that it was
I mean,
searched.
hopefully that's a step in the right direction.
Oh, absolutely.
Hopefully, I mean, as much as you don't want something to be found, you kind of do want something to
You
be
want
found so that
answers.
you have the answers. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Something. So, sure.
Wow.
Mhm.
Well, we'll update as we get that.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening, everyone. This comes out just before Thanksgiving, so we hope everyone has a safe and healthy Thanksgiving. And no
If
matter
you celebrate.
if you celebrate, and no matter who you're celebrating with, if it's with friends, family, or alone, we hope that it brings you the peace you need, because we all know that if we're meeting with family who have different views than us, this might be a really hard holiday.
Yes.
So
take care of yourself.
Take care of yourself. Do what you need to do to make it through this holiday.
Say self-care.
Yup. And don't feel bad about what you need to do to get that.
Correct. Well,
So-
don't do anything illegal.
Within reason. Within reason.
A Scary Tea podcast told me I could do whatever I need
Yeah.
to make myself feel better.
Okay, nothing illegal, within reason. Nothing that's gonna hurt others.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Oh my God.
So I guess that's all we have at this point. So stay scary.
Stay safe.